Hi again. I think, Kostas, the floor is to you.
Thanks, Adrian. Okay, so are we ready to start the final session? Everybody's back, almost. Okay, so I'll make a small intro. First of all, thanks a lot to the conference organizing team. You've done a great job. Amazing. It seemed like an impossible task in the beginning, but you made it. Thanks a lot. I guess we'll talk about this after the end of the session in more detail, I guess. Okay, so this is a session dedicated to, let's say, the internal workings of wind empowerment and its organizational structure. So we will mostly be talking about the Wind Empowerment Board and what has happened in the last 2 years. And then we will go into a discussion on the elections and the current board, and review applications and see how to move forward. So we'll start with a summary of wind empowerment activities by Jessica and Kimon, and then Marco will tell us a little bit about the wind empowerment strategy and vision, some work. So both of these presentations sum up the work that's happened in the last 2 years. And then as an intro to the election and the new board and the board roles, the current board will present some feedback, basically what happened in each board position in the last 2 years, what went well, what went bad, and how to improve. So I guess we can start with Jessica and Kimon summarizing the wind empowerment activities. Could they share their screen, Adrian? Is that possible to make Jessica a host?
Yes, if you make them co-hosts.
So I do it from.
Is it?
I think anybody can share.
Normally, they can share.
Is it possible to?
I can share, and I'm nothing.
Sorry, Jess, what's that?
Okay, Jess, can you share your screen or?
No, I cannot. I'm on the phone. I was having issues
Okay.
with the laptop.
I can share my screen, guys.
Kimon will do it.
We'll
Okay,
tag team.
Kimon, I try to make you co-host.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Now can you do it?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Awesome.
Sweet deal.
All right, Jess, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Thanks, Kimon. Sweet.
Yep.
Well, as Kostas was saying earlier, like, we are really excited to see this conference actually happening. There was a brief moment where we didn't expect that this would happen just because we didn't really know how, or we hadn't really done this before. So, you know, many thanks to everyone that has been working really hard to make this WEOnline conference possible, even though it's a little different and it's not everything that we expected. I think that in a lot of cases it did exceed our expectations, and we went from not thinking we were going to have a gathering to actually being able to participate and meet each other again. So it is a very different, like 2020 has been, and but it has been successful and it's been great. So Kimon and I, along with some of the board members, have kind of made some bullet points here of what has been happening in the last 2 years at the board level. So as many of you guys know, we were elected at the WE 2018 in India, and that conference was a whole nother level as well. But we managed to get a lot of feedback from that conference. And so with that, we were able to restructure many different things and keep up with communication in different methods with some of the members, writing reports, and just trying to keep that momentum alive. As many of you guys know, the momentum is so intense during the conference, and then we try to keep that momentum going throughout the years, the two before we meet again. And that's always really hard. In this case, I think it was definitely harder with COVID happening, and then also just life events happening in the different board members' lives. One of the good things that came out of the 2 years was we did get some membership or applications. So we had about 7 new members that applied almost immediately after the conference in India, and we got more than 7, but we definitely accepted 7. Then we decided that we were going to restructure how we did the membership, just to make sure that if you were joining Wind Empowerment, you were joining for specific collaboration reasons, or knowledge sharing, whatever that key factor or aspect would be like. So we're trying to restructure that aspect. We definitely, if you were at the Wind Empowerment Conference in India, you know that we talked about restructuring our strategy framework, and we even started a brainstorming session there. I won't delve too much on the Wind Empowerment strategy, because Marco will do a very good job at breaking that down after I give you the summary here. But we definitely did spend a lot of that first year focusing on that. We also focused on the Wind Empowerment Charter, just making updates to the different transition updates that we had been doing, but that weren't clearly stated in the charter. So we spend a lot of time just deliberating and trying to come up with the exact format and ways to establish this within the charter. I know that there's 2 specific questions we focused on, which was the funding, Wind Empowerment funding, how we would acquire that, and then how wind empowerment projects should be framed. So we can definitely have more information about that, or talk a little bit more about that as well. You can hit the next slide, Kimon. I think there's one more. Sweet. I did talk about the process of members being added, which would that be included in our charter update as well, and then the strategic planning, as of course. One of the biggest things that we saw gain momentum within the association was our digital communication team, and that's props to Caterina and Guillermo. This is a fairly new role, and they definitely made sure that we were having webinars and we were showcasing work that was being done by some of our members on Facebook and on Instagram, and just trying to share the projects that were going on. So we definitely did a much better job and focus in kind of establishing that and trying to figure out how to gather people. And so digital communications did an amazing job in that aspect. I don't think we wrote it in here, but oh yeah, it is there. Sorry, I'm trying to read the slides as well. But the Wind Empowerment website was also a great hit. We revamped it and made it more user-friendly, and also in the sense of the back end of making sure to update some of that content. We had Fani, who joined our team in helping us reestablish that momentum within the website to make it more member friendly as well, where we can gather and share some of the projects within that, and then also embedding things such as Discord or even like the conference, so it could be more visible. So that was definitely a hit. And so if you haven't checked out the website, make sure that you do. So with that, as you know, the second year, usually we focus on trying to plan that next conference. And so we had focused on doing the conference in Tanzania for this year. I had also taken an initial trip to meet with the organizations there, and Arthur, who unfortunately cannot join us during these conference days. And so we started building that momentum and trying to organize how the conference would look like. And so unfortunately that had to be changed due to the pandemic. But great work has been done on that realm, and hoping that we can do it next year as the conference was postponed. But no work is ever done in vain. So we hope that we can ramp that up for next year as well. The working groups and set projects also continued to happen. Definitely there was more momentum in some groups than others, as to be expected. I definitely enjoyed how we had fresh new ideas, fresh new people on the working groups, and trying to build that momentum in certain groups that we hadn't seen before. So that aspect was great. And then also we got to see some of the SEPs projects get completed, and kind of just see the fruits of all that work that had been done through the year. So that was also very great. And of course, the last thing that definitely happened was organizing this Women Empowerment online conference, which was not an easy task. And I definitely appreciate the work that all of you guys have put, especially that core team, in making sure that we had something like this even possible. So there wasn't as much momentum going on as we had hoped from Women Empowerment India. However, I think that there was definitely good work done despite all the different challenges that we expected. And I believe that this conference and us gathering together is a testament to seeing that there's still fresh, new momentum that wants to continue the Women Empowerment organization. And then there's also still some of us old folks that still have our roots in here and want to see the organization grow. But that's just a little bit of what has been going on, and I will pass it on over to Marco.
Hey guys, hi everyone. Hey, thanks Jess. Thanks everyone for being here. It's super cool to be part of the conference. Just before to start, I just wanted to say, guys, this was amazing. The online conference was really one of the best online events I've ever been. I really enjoyed attending some of the events when I had time. So congratulations all. I felt really guilty I didn't contribute at all at this, but this was amazing. So congratulations, you really made a good job. And personally, you made me rediscover why I joined Women Empowerment the first time. So really thank you. Cool. Kostas, how are we gonna do this? You sharing? I share. What's the plan?
I think you can share it as long as we can make you host, or can everybody share at this session?
I think he's already co-host.
Okay.
So let me see. So I should be able to share my screen, right?
Right.
Let's see. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. Awesome. So if I remember again how to use PowerPoint, should be able to do it. Cool. All right. So yeah, again, welcome everyone. So I'm gonna try to summarize in 5-10 minutes what we've done as part of the strategy piece of work. So before to crack on, just give an introduction about myself for the people that don't know me already. I'm a mechanical engineer, although I didn't actually do an engineer ever at work. I worked as a project manager and in operations across the energy, aerospace, and tech industry so far. I've been part of the board in the last 2 years as a fundraiser and obviously strategy coordinator. I've been in India, the last conference as a trainer where we built the wooden tower for our turbine at Niue. And before that, I've been 3 times in Brazil to do different small wind turbine projects across Minas Gerais with the Hello Wind Power, which was a member organization. Today is no longer part of the network, but has done great stuff. So that's me. But let's look at what the strategic planning journey looked like. So as just said, I think this was one of the first time we were able to think about strategy, and I think we did it at the right time. It was exactly, well, not exactly 2 years ago, but it was exactly in the same forum during the conference when the last day we would have discussions about what the members organization and the members individually want from wind empowerment, and we started to brainstorm, and that's where we thought, okay, well, maybe we need to think about a bit more strategically, and to try to organize our activities, our goals, and make sure that they are actually aligned to our mission and what we want to do, what we want to give to the world. So yeah, we follow these kind of 4 steps here. We first, as you said, listen to what the members wanted from the organization. Then we look at these goals that we set ourselves, and we checked whether we're in line with our vision and our mission. And then we started to try, to think about a strategy that would be able to deliver these goals aligned with what the organization mission is. However, while we're doing that, we also realized that, hey, actually, we need to do stuff. We have to do stuff short term, and we need to prioritize things because, it's already, 2019, and next year, 2020, we will have done the conference. So we try to balance a little bit of short-term activities that we kind of carry on from previous almost coordination proposals that we needed to deliver, new things the organization wanted to do, and then we thought about, okay, what is the organization structure and the strategy that we'll be able to deliver in the long term. So let me start from the beginning then. Most of you will recognize the picture on the bottom right. That's what we wrote in the whiteboard at Niue in 2018. And fundamentally, we had this brainstorming session. We kind of a little bit voted in a way to see who wanted to see what. And mainly 3 things came up, right? We wanted the wind empowerment to become a better platform for even improving communication between our members, between our association, but also with the external world. Then we said, well, one thing that we're really not doing enough is doing projects, not only, tech projects, but also field projects, could be any type of projects of bringing new people in, volunteering projects. So we said, we really want to do something as a wind empowerment organization, and we want to be able to deliver these projects. And so that was kind of the second main goal. And then thirdly, we said, okay, we wanted to also become financially sustainable. Today or in the past, we've been relying on mostly single source of fundings, and this obviously really risky, but also give us a lot of dependency on the funder. And we always say, okay, let's try to diversify. Let's try to find new ways to do things and become a little bit more stable financially, so we can think big. that was what we said, and then we started to look a little bit of what strategy means, what we wanted to do, and well, we started to back pencil and paper, looking at the mission, why we do what we do today, and then try to map out a little bit in the time scales what the strategy means and what goals and priority means. So as you can see here, go quickly through it, but a strategy is something that it's a long term. So you see, if today it's this nice triangle, we look like in the future, it's something that it's multi-years, it shouldn't change, and it's explain how we achieve the mission, which is why we do things. Goals are like a little bit more mid-term. So goals, I think in our situation can broadly align with the cycle of a board, so the couple of years that we have. So goals are things that change in time, but in the midterm. And then we have priorities, activities, so activities that are prioritized in the short term that needs to be delivered within a cycle of a board. And then we set up a little bit of a process, like, okay, that's what we would like to do. Obviously, in theory, we set up our priorities, we deliver on what we can, and then every board change, we reset new goals and make sure that they are aligned with our strategy and mission. And that's what we did. In a sense, this is a summary of what Jess already repeated, so I'm not going to spend too much time. But yeah, we did spend time on the charter, and we updated that. We built a new website, and that is now a platform for global communication. We have great tools that we didn't have before, like Discord and the wiki. I mean, this is going to be a really great tool for us to improve our communication. We also use the social media, something that we didn't do in the past. And we organized pretty much almost 2 conferences. So yeah, it's been a lot of things done despite COVID. And as part of the strategy, we thought about a new structure that could work for our organization to deliver on what we wanted, and hopefully we'll still want. This is the structure that kind of drafted at the time. So basically sees 4 more work streams. It looks at obviously from the top the administration bit, which is kind of sort of what some of the board's role will do. There are internal tasks like secretariat, treasurers. These are things that are functional to the internal working of the organization, when there are also administrative tasks that are external. So talking with the funders, maintaining their relationship with the key stakeholders across the world. So these are kind of things that they will need to happen anyway for basically the sustainment of the organization. Then we have a bit, we call it services, and this is where we thought in a way we could start to think about models that deliver sustainable financial, potentially could give us some funding in financial stability. So that's where we split, services as profit, the one that could give us some profit. As for example, we've been talking about running specific analysis for members or not members, people that are just interested to get our expertise that we have in the network. Thinking about managing projects and having fees for managing projects on behalf of other organization, or giving the resources to PM to get the funds and manage then the deliverables of the projects. These were things that yeah, we've been discussing. And then obviously all the other services that we do non-profit as being open source platform, not giving the network, giving the knowledge, giving the open tech. These things will will still be required. Then the third bit, which is obviously always been the core, it's research and development in the sense of the working groups. So technical working groups, less technical working groups. And then the last bit, which is a little bit more the additional, the bit that we never actually had formally and structured, is kind of having almost a project manager and someone that will be really close to the launch, so actually to the definition, through the part of the kind of the fundraising phase and defining the scope of a project, to the launch of the project, and then the management and obviously execution and closure of the project. They can be field and non-field projects, but these are the main 4 elements that will be able to give us a structure to deliver on what the goals that the members ask us to deliver on. And if I can move on, so that's what we thought. Obviously, what's next? So I think that for me, the main message is I wanted to make us think about this process. We've done a bit of work starting 2 years ago, but I think there are a few questions that we need to ask ourselves, and we will have a forum to discuss this. Are the goals that we now set in India still valid today? Let's listen again our members and understanding what if these are still valid. Does the organization that we proposed and I just showed in the slide before still aligns with these goals and enable us to deliver, or there are a better structure that we can use? And I think the final most important question is, how do we set up our board to be able to work in that structural alignment and deliver on these goals? And just to conclude, I mean, it's going to be great to discuss later. Personally, I will be super happy to share what I've done. The last thing I want is that the new boards come in and feels the need to start from scratches. I wanted to show what we've done and why. We have some good tools, and I don't think we need to restart, from scratches. So whatever the new board is going to decide, what I want to say is that we are here to share what we've done in the past and support the new board to deliver as much as possible. Cool. Thank you very much. And yeah, that's it. I hope it was followable.
Thank you, Marco. That was great. I think it's a very good introduction to what happened in the past 2 years, but also a little bit in the internal workings of wind empowerment. At least for the people who are not so much aware of this. Okay, so the next session is we're moving towards like talking about the new board and the elections. The first part is a small presentation from each of the board members. Some of the board positions have been shared between 2 people, so you will hear 2 people speaking, and getting some feedback from them. Please keep it as to the point as you can, so that we don't go over with time. And also another thing to include in this session, I think, is maybe we can talk about this after we finish, but it has to do with the working group coordinators. I think we haven't mentioned this yet, but maybe Alfie can talk a little bit about that later on, when we go into the election process. So I'll share my screen. Okay. Am I still a host? Can I do it? Adrian, do I have to do something?
Right. Who do you want to give the floor to?
To myself.
Okay. Are you okay? Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, okay, I can share my screen, or each one of you can share the presentation. But anyway, let's start like this, and we'll see how it goes. Is this good?
Yep, we can see that, Kostas.
Okay, perfect. So we're starting with the coordinator, and that's Jessica. Hello, Jess.
Yeah,
I'll move
there
the
I am.
slides.
I was on mute. Yeah.
Cool.
Sweet. You can go to the next slide. Okay, sweet. So I have been the coordinator for the last actually 4 years. We started after WIN Empowerment Conference in Argentina. So it's been awesome. It's been great, but it's also been very challenging. So the key roles or the key responsibilities for those, whoa, you're going everywhere.
I'm sorry. I got used to not presenting. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I was like, that's a little trippy because, you know, I have a little ADD and things are just flashing.
Sorry, Jess.
Sorry about that, guys. So the key roles for the coordinator for WIN Empowerment are communication. It's very key, right? So communicating not only with the executive board, but also the trustees, the members, and also the funders. And so in our case, we would have monthly meetings with the executive board. So making sure that those meetings are organized and that, you know, are effective as well. Quarterly meetings with the trustees, which I was really slacking with those at the very end, and props to Alfie, who was picking those up. The members as well, which I think the digital communications teams was doing a much better role or job at keeping that together. And then funders, which our main one has been Vision. So we were having quarterly meetings with them as well, just to kind of touch bases on what is the network doing. The other key thing going on within the coordinator is just facilitating that knowledge exchange between WIN Empowerment members, just making sure that you're also serving as a linker or a mediator, or like, hey, I this is what I'm thinking about doing. Have you heard of anybody else doing that? And just making sure that you're facilitating and connecting those members or just those key players as well to make it easier for all those involved, and also so people are not reinventing the wheel. So I talked about communication is very important if you haven't noticed, but just with the board of trustees, just to ensure that they're informed about the activities that are going on. So this one was important because then at the end, we're also doing reports, and all these reports get, and Alfie might be able to talk more about the financial reports that are done as well, just ensuring that annual reports are getting done, just so people can see what has the network done during that term or during that year or even during 6 months. And then ensuring that WIN Empowerment is presented to other organizations. So whether that's conferences or just networks, just being the face of the network, essentially. You know, I was able to participate in various events or just meetings that we had that were made happen through some of the members. So just showcasing that the work that is being done or that work that we'd like to get done as well. So yeah, I think those were the main key roles of the coordinator. And then also, I don't think added there was just like helping, making sure the momentum continues after the conference, which is really hard. And I think that has been one of the hardest things that I've encountered, is just making sure that momentum keeps going. And, you know, everybody gets tied up or, gets focused on a specific project. I remember when I was working in projects in Peru, sometimes those would suck so much time out of me. And then sometimes I was also in rural locations where I didn't have access to the network to just make sure things were going on. So those are some of the challenges I encountered. Then as I moved on, I just got too busy doing other work. So ensuring that if you're going to be the coordinator or you like to be the coordinator, is ensuring that you're not able to do the work that needs to be done. It's just having people, key players, helping getting that work done. And so I think that has been the best thing that has helped me as a coordinator, is having key people within the executive board help get things done or perform things that need to get done, so the association still keeps going. So that's just kind of brief information of what the coordinator role is or entails.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you. So we move on to the next role, which is the communications team. Caterina and Guillermo.
Yes. Okay, I will start, and I will first give a very brief summary of the role, and Guille will then just brief what has been done the last 2 years, and then we will give some feedback. Okay, communications is very important for any organization, but especially for a network, because the basic function is to share knowledge. So it is actually the interface between wind empowerment and the rest of the world, but also the internal interface within the network. And next slide. So the first three are the main axes, I think, of responsibilities of this role. So to give a digital presence to the activities of the members and the working groups so that they spread within the network and to the outside world, and then to make any relevant external information available for we members, and to monitor and improve internal communication between the working groups and the members. And the others are subtasks, I think, of these key axes, like hosting the webinar series, preparing, drafting and disseminating the annual report of the organization, preparing a research dissemination strategy to publish the research conducted by we. We never did this actually. And very important to identify and address language barriers within the network. The next slide will be presented by Guille.
Hello, everybody. How are you? Can you listen me? Hello, Kostas.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Yes, my camera is not working. Well, just to be brief, we did a lot of things in communication during these years. Maybe the webinars or organizing things was really good, but we have been focused on keep our channels information in good status. For example, the newsletter was we try to do everything in a sustainable way. So periodically, just repeat every month different communication things. Well, maybe you have to tell us if we obtain that result, because you can, I don't know if you watch the difference in the network, in the social medias and newsletter, where we produce a lot of material. We work on the web page. And the other slide, well, we work on the traditional social networks like Facebook and Instagram. If you can check our page, our account at now, where are increased a lot. For example, Instagram is increasing a lot, and Facebook, well, have good material and good fluent of well, interesting people. And we have LinkedIn now that is good for professional network. We didn't have, and we learned some programs that you need to design, and like Canva, other things that take us time to do it. And we did some research. This research consists to investigate the different network from the different organization members. So we have, now we have the information is in the Google Drive, and we know if they have Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn, and we can check how good are in that area. So for each member, we know how many followers they have and that kind of information. It's good for take decision. Well, that's it, I think.
Guille, do you want to add some feedback now about the role, or I can make some comments also?
Yes, well, not that the communication activities take time. So the person that be on charge of this need to have some abilities. For example, in my case, I learned a lot, but I didn't have the abilities before, for example, to design. And so during these 2 years, I learned to make some designs, and I think that I was improving and say manage some audiovisual programs. So that is very important thing, the skills that you need to do the job in a good way. And well, for the next, I think that there are a lot of social networks, there are a lot of channels that we can explore. But well, that would be great. That ones are the traditionals, but there are a lot of things. The social network, and there are a lot of social networks related with open source or wiki cosmovision point of view. So maybe we can try to include that. Well. Yes, the most important thing is to do the job every week, you know, like in a sustain. That is not good if you do a post or something. You have to include your action in a strategy, and you have to keep that strategy in across all the months. Yes.
Okay, I also think we have done quite a lot of things these 2 years, but of course there are so many more that can be done. And if you see the description, there are too many responsibilities for this role, and there is some overlapping maybe with other roles as well. So maybe in the first meetings of the new board, they can discuss and distribute and prioritize what tasks should be done by its role. I think this would help the long-term effectiveness. And then I think more emphasis can be given in the future to write more blogs about what members and working groups are doing and about wind empowerment events. So Guille has done a great job sharing news in social media, but it would be nice to have more blogs as well. The webinars have been a valuable space, I think, for members to share their work and exchange. So it would be good to continue organizing this, and maybe even more. We just did 2 webinars, I think, in this 2-year term. And another important point that we didn't address so much is the language barriers. So the next people could work a bit more on that. For example, having translators in webinars and conferences, or having channels in Discord in other languages. And maybe to be a bit more organized in general about keeping record of the network's activities, so that in the end you can produce easily an annual report or infographic. This is something that we have discussed for so many years, but haven't managed to produce it yet. This. Okay, sorry we took a bit more time than planned.
Thank you, Katerina and Guille. Actually, it was quite in depth, and it's good to hear all this stuff. I think. Well done, great work. So actually, the person who's next doesn't know, because I haven't said to anybody who's going next. So, and I don't even remember. So let's see. So it's the working group coordinators.
Ooh,
So that's
it's
Luis and
me.
Nasos. Welcome back, guys.
Hi again, everybody. This is going to be shorter than usual. I'll describe the working group coordinator or coordination role. I'll give you some feedback, Nasos, if you want to chip in and correct me if I, forgot something. We shared this role since 2018, Nasos and myself. The idea here is that in order to avoid having a huge board with all the working group coordinators as part of the board, we created this position as the coordinator of the working groups, in the sense where this is the person who kind of interfaces between the board and the working group coordinators. Obviously, all the working group coordinators are always welcome to participate in board meetings. This role is mainly somebody who discusses with working group coordinators on a regular basis. When we left India, I created a WhatsApp group so we could exchange and have some feedback. We can kind of keep an eye on projects that are being led by working groups, and we report that to the board, you know, saying if the working groups are facing any challenges that maybe the board could address. In a perfect world where Wind Empowerment had more funds and the board could actually, you know, engage more funds to the working groups, this role of the working group coordinator would be more important, because it would allow, you know, to quickly get funds from Wind Empowerment into the working groups to keep working going forward. But since we're always cash dry, or at least to a certain extent, we don't have that much money, it kind of hampers this position a little bit. We do this role has the person in this position has the role of trying to keep a contact with different working groups, stimulate working group activity, stimulate the working groups to actually exchange and create cross working group projects. It's not that much time consuming as it may sound like, especially now that we have better tools for communicating with one another. I think this role is really somebody who is watching the working groups and getting that specific load of work off the rest of the board, and keep in touch with the board and trying to, you know, guide the board related policy in the light of what the working groups discuss. For instance, just to give you a broad example, is that when we were having this big discussion about what we're going to do, Tanzania is not going to work, it's not going forward, there's the pandemic, what we're going to do, I called all the working group coordinators and, you know, said, guys, what would you like to do in the next conference? What would you like the conference to be about? How can we focus this conference to be something related and driven by you? And that brought together working group coordinators. I chaired the first meeting. I probably tried to chair the second meeting through the screams of my children. And from there on, Adrian took over, and that kind of, you know, it kickstarted the whole effort. So it doesn't mean I am at the origin of it. I was just doing my job. But this is the kind of interesting moment when this role that doesn't look like very important can kind of be very important for a few minutes, to bring everybody together, talk, make everybody talk, and then it's let it roll. So that was one of the very positive feedbacks of this role in this past 2 years that I had. Otherwise, most of the time you're just sending last minute messages to people saying, I'm at the board meeting, do you have anything to say to people? And they kind of give you some feedback at the moment as well. That also is an important part of it.
Thank you, Luis. And Nasos, do you want to add anything, or should we move to the next role?
I think
okay, you're probably covered.
We can move on. Said. Yeah.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. So the surprise board role coming up next is the treasurer.
Hopefully it's a nice surprise. Okay, so hi everyone. For those who don't know me, I'm Alfie Alsop. I have been the treasurer of Wind Empowerment since 2016, where I was elected at the Argentina conference. So I think I'm going to start with the last point. Actually, the treasurer is not the most exciting role, but it is one of the most important roles. The treasurer is responsible for keeping a record of all financial transactions, keeping an eye on the Wind Empowerment bank account, making sure that there's nothing untoward going on there, making payments to projects and where needed, receiving and issue invoices. So for example, if we have a funded project ongoing, the treasurer will issue invoices to the funder and will issue payments to the organization who is carrying out the activity. So the treasurer is also responsible for assisting with reporting and proposal writing, particularly the budget. So making sure that the budget for any particular proposal is well thought out and well demonstrated. And the same for proposals, reflecting back on how a project was carried out, highlighting what was spent where and making sure that the justification for the expenditure is written down and transparent. So the treasurer is also responsible for ensuring the financial sustainability of the organization. So essentially that means we don't spend more money than we're receiving. So it means that, you know, we're not going to make promises that we cannot financially keep. I like to think I've done quite a good job on that front. I'm very protective over the bank account, as I'm sure most of the board will agree. So as I said, it's not the most exciting role. It is a lot of spreadsheets. It is a lot of sending invoices, pestering people to send their invoices, looking at timesheets for other board roles and so on. But in terms of it's the financial heart of the organization as well. It makes sure that the money for funded projects gets dispersed as quickly as possible, and so that all the fun stuff can actually happen. So the treasurer is the facilitator of that fun stuff in a way. As for feedback, things that I think I've done well, things that could be improved on. I think in general, the records have been kept well. I think the payments have by and large been made on time pretty quickly. I think everything's operated more or less smoothly. The major difficulty has been, for example, with quite volatile changes in exchange rates, and this again is quite technical and potentially boring. But over the last years, there's been quite big fluctuations in exchange rates. And to make sure that we're not losing money as an organization, what we need to do is make sure that we're paying people in the most effective way. Whether that is, for example, a direct bank transfer or through something like World Remit, Western Union, or TransferWise and so on, making sure we're getting the best out that we can out of our money. So the difficulty has been with these differences in exchange rates. So quite often we have to look at you know, the different options available to us and make sure that we're not choosing something that will be losing us money compared to an alternative. So that could be improved. I mean, it's kind of a victim of the circumstances in a way, but also the long-term financial planning. You know, looking at the financing model of the organization, and this ties in a little bit to the fundraising. You know, how can we be more financially sustainable? Not necessarily self-sustainable. It might not be the case that Wind Empowerment wants to move into a direction where we are, you know, selling services or whatever, but to diversify funding sources. So that kind of ties into a discussion I think we'll have later. I think that's it for me. But if anyone has any comments, I'd be happy to reply. Otherwise, I'll pass over to the next person, Kostas.
Thank you, Alfie. That was detailed. Oh. These are the next slides. Okay, so fundraising team. That's Marco and me. Marco, do you want to?
Yes.
To start?
Yes. So everyone, hi again. So fundraising role. So let me do a little bit of different approach here. So basically, what fundraising role is really simple, right? It needs to understand who needs the money, look for who can give the money, so looking for funding sources, and then write proposal to get this money, and then get things started. So these are like the 3 key steps of the fundraising role. my feedback is that we really struggle with it. And in fact, we didn't fundraise anything. And the reason why we struggled, I think, I mean, there are many, but the main one was circumstances of obviously our historical moment. But especially, we didn't know who we needed to find funds for and why. And that's why I choose today to give actually a couple of slides on the fundraising strategy, because what we actually spent most of the time on was to ask ourselves why people in the organization don't come to us for money, for funds, for doing projects. Probably it's just because they don't know, and we don't have a process to actually do that. That's what I wanted to talk today. So Kostas, if you go one slide. So basically, the objectives of the fundraiser are mostly, I split it down in these four kind of pillars. The first one is basically why we need the money. We need the money first to coordinate the organization. So that is the Wind Empowerment Coordination and Board funds that we need to raise. The second bit is usually we want to organize a conference, right? And that's needs money, and that's where fundraiser will work too. Then the third bit, which is the most important, is the one that I was thinking we are lacking of visibility of what we need to do, is we want to fund projects. So we want to help the organization members and the members itself to basically bring their ideas from piece of paper to actually doing it. And that's where we struggle, and that's why I will show later in the next slide what we thought we could do. The last pillar, it's linked to what I discussed before in the strategy, that we had discussions about how we can become more self-sustainable, maybe not totally, as Alfie just said, but there were thoughts about thinking to sell services and get some money out of it to self-sustain ourselves. And that was one of the things that the fundraising team was we thought to be looking at, but yeah, we really didn't yet. So the next slide is gonna talk about how we really should work as an organization. I want to give visibility to the people who are here today to make sure that everyone knows that we can do it, and this is the proposal how to do it. So the point is that every time you guys in the working groups especially, or even members that are part of the organization have an idea and they think, okay, I want to do something I want to do a project that is related to the mission of wind empowerment, but I don't know how to do it because I don't have the money. The first thing we should be doing is that, okay, is taking this idea and talk to us. And the way, approach the board, and we have website, there is the email, there is the people that you know, but we need to know that what you're thinking and what you need from us. Then when we think, okay, yes, this makes sense for our organization, it's a really good idea, then we will need a little bit of a framework, like we call it a project charter. Basically, it's a piece of paper that says, what is the problem you're trying to solve? What do you want to achieve with it? What is the business case? So what you think like you're gonna get out of it, and how much money you need. So what do you expect to spend? And this is what is shown here in the screen. There is a link there. We have, the format is there, and there are a few examples on how actually to populate it. It's not too difficult. It doesn't even need to be really complicated. It can take 10 minutes, but it's at least something written down that we can submit, we can circulate across, and we can have a think about it. After that, then the idea is that we will evaluate as part of the board and the organization which projects, in the assumption that we have a lot of projects. We're going to think about, okay, what is the most important that we need to focus because our energy is limited, but we can help with some of these, which are the most important. So prioritization, and then here we go. When we have to go to say, yes, this project makes sense, this project is feasible, this project is prioritized, then the fundraising team will go try to understand which funds they can raise, that are on the field of the project that needs to be delivered. We will then partner with the project team to write the proposal, and then obviously submit the proposal and try to find the funds to kickstart the project. And that's really it I wanted to say from my side. Kostas, do you want to add anything?
Thanks, Marco. Yeah, I will add some more, let's say, practical points around this process. So basically, once this process is done, you have a few projects that you are aware of, and then there are many websites. There's a website, it's called Funds for NGOs, and that's the one that we mostly use, where you get newsletters of funding calls, some close to the deadline, some others giving you some time to respond and potentially write a proposal. So we have created, well, we have upgraded and updated a spreadsheet that has been created through various wind empowerment boards over the years. So there is a very big list of funding sources and of different themes. Let's say some are research, some are more field-based, so on and so forth. So there is quite a lot of input in terms of where to look. You need some time in order to make sure that you are there when the call is open and not later, and so on and so forth. But it's something that can be done with some kind of strategy and organizing. 2 points that I've seen in fundraising. One is that the people doing fundraising either need to have a very good overview of what's needed in the organization, part of which we tried to address by this process that Marco explained, or very good communication channels with people that do know what's going on. So that might be the working group coordinator, it might be the coordinator himself, herself, communication. So very good knowledge of what other people on the board are doing, but also what the network itself is doing. And another thing is that I've seen is that, for example, there were cases when we did see a call and we did know of somebody, for example, located in Africa, for example, that could that we could build a nice project together for this call that would benefit, obviously wind empowerment and the local member, so on and so forth. And we found that communication, like sometimes you don't have enough, you have like a month or 2 months to prepare a proposal, yeah? The time needed to build up communication with that member sometimes exceeded the month or the month and a half that we had in order to write the proposal. So we somehow need communication channels, active and ready for when the call comes in, because the calls cannot always be planned really well in advance. Anyway, this is some of my personal experience and stuff that I've seen. And another thing that goes obviously to all board members is actually having time to allocate to what everybody has agreed to do. That has been one of my problems. It's funny to say that when you're saying that you would like to be the next coordinator, but anyway, try to have time to do what's needed within the board. So I think that's all from us. Marco, do you want to add anything, or are we done?
No, I think it's good. Yeah, all good.
Cool. And I think the last board position is the secretary. Yeah, you can see this, and that's Kimon. Kimon, would you?
Yeah, Kostas.
Like to share?
I can't see a slide though.
Can you see my screen now?
Well, I can see your screen, which says Project Charter, isn't it?
Ah, okay, okay. Just a second. Where is Zoom? Sorry, Kimon, for this. I'm getting there.
Oh.
Is this better?
Yep, yep.
Cool. Thank you.
All right. Just quickly introducing myself. My name is Kimon Silwal. I started working as a secretary for women empowerment since the last women empowerment conference in India. But just to give a very, very short overview, the company that I used to work with, which I am still a partially part of, whose name is Capig, operating in Nepal, was one of the first members during the women empowerment establishment, which was when actually I got to know John Leary in 2014. And so through him, I got to know some of the members within the board, and also Kostas. And with more collaboration between Capig and Women Empowerment, got the opportunity to attend conferences in actually in Athens and then in India. And actually, one of my colleague also did attend the conference in Argentina. So it's been very nice in overall. Just quickly getting to the point, you can only see 4 bullet points over here, which is why I think Kostas did put me in the last. Yeah, I'll just go through some of the key roles, which is managing the WE email account, and so in the last 2 years, the email traffic has not been too intense. This year, it's not been it's not been much, I think, because of the ongoing situation as well. But basically, you receive an email from the members or whoever it is, and if it's specific email, you just divert those to the other board members who've got the expertise to reply. But if it's just general inquiry, you just reply that email by yourself. But it would be good if you know. It would be good if you know which board members would be able to reply which would be quite a handy information to know about in the beginning. WE membership. So just very briefly talking about it, the role is actually to manage the Women Empowerment members database, which may be the individual members or the organizational membership, and also to keep an update on which members are active and which members are inactive. But 2 main things that happened with this activity was last year we started a Women Empowerment organizational membership survey, because before we had like about 67 total organizational members, but from the previous database there were members who were quite active, which were moderately active, but clearly a lot of members did not used to reply any of our surveys and stuff. So that was quite a concerning thing actually, because from the total number of 67 members, we would hardly receive a response from 10 to 15 memberships. So that was one of the quite difficult thing to come across. In the last few months or year so, we've been able to update our membership list to a total number of 20, where we've got 12 voting members and 10 non-voting members. But still, in the last few months where we started the membership voting process, the response was still quite hard. I had to send a lot of follow-up emails, but also it was something where you had to communicate personally to ask some of the members to reply. So that process has been quite difficult to manage. So one of the things that I'd like to highlight is that whenever you're sending email to the members or individual people, it's good to send an email with a lot of follow-ups, but also at some point you just have to communicate individually in a personal level as well. And in the first year, it was a bit difficult for me because the timing was not exactly suitable, because the Women Empowerment monthly voting minuting time would be between 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. So it was a bit odd time for me. But but this year has been not too difficult. So that was a bit challenging in terms of timings. The fourth point is managing documents, which is not very difficult. It's this Win Empowerment Google online drive where all the documents are saved. As soon as a new secretary takes the position, it would be good to go to the drive and see where things are at, which the previous secretary can easily give an orientation of. Just in terms of feedback, I think in the last 2 years, the overall role has not been quite extensive. It's quite easily handleable, which makes me think about maybe there may be some roles that could be shared with the communication, digital communication role. I think there's some interrelation between the secretary and communication position. So I think there are a few points which could be quite shared in terms of communicating with the members. One thing that specifically comes to my mind is collecting some membership information in terms of the active projects that the members may be doing. And so with the Discord platform really kicking off after the conference, which I'm expecting, I think that could be one of the things that could be thought about actually coming into the process. I think that's it for me, Kostas.
Thank you, Kimon. Actually, I put you last because you were the only one that had a thank you slide there. So I think we are done with these presentations. We don't have any more board roles to.
Yes, Kostas. What about the scientific advisor role?
Ooh. Well, this is a new role, so we don't currently have a person in that position, but maybe Luis, since it was your proposal and it is one of the board positions, maybe you would like to make an intro on that, since we're probably going to talk about it a bit later on.
Can you give me the screen sharing? So I made a slide to present it to everybody. If you either that, or you can just look into your email, I sent it to you.
Adrian, can we make Luis a host? I cannot make him a host here.
Yes, I'm working on that. It should be fine.
Luis, can you try sharing your screen?
So can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
All right. So the scientific advisor, so the Win Empowerment Scientific Advisor is a new role that was created a few months ago. I proposed it to the board, and I was the first scientific advisor as a test role before we became an actual role in the board. So the role is mainly about. I've written down 4 main points, but I think it's we could dwell on it more, but I'll just focus on these 4. So there's matchmaking between academic members looking for study cases and field members who have the data or who have cases that could be interesting for people. So this matchmaking is important. And Kasia.
We haven't met Kasia, have we? Was she in India?
Yeah, she was in India. She was a baby though. She's full
Was it
grown
Kasia?
now.
Ah, okay.
Well, you know, children. So if I can explain this quite quickly, is that there's a matchmaking between academic members and field members. That's one important part. Then there is helping women empowerment to have a more prominent role in funding related to research, such as European Union funding and others. A typical example is what Luis Arribas presented us as they got 600,000 euros to do the job that basically we could have done as well, which was a great job. They did a great job, but this kind of funding is accessible to us, but we need somebody in academia that can actually put us into the funding proposals as well. The scientific advisor should also coordinate to a certain extent or help coordinate data acquisition and structuring in a sense to facilitate the potential that women empowerment has to become a source of information for the scientific community. So having this vision of we gather data and that data can be used or can at least be a very strong argument for women empowerment to be part of future projects. That's something that could be a part of what the scientific advisor does. And the scientific advisors should, to a certain extent, participate in scientific activities in the behalf of women empowerment, if that's possible. So really be the inside man or woman who works on this in academia, and it's helping, you know, promote women empowerment within academia and get the funds that academia has, which are in the millions. We can get a few dozens of thousands within for women empowerment for participating in projects and becoming more, you know, growing the women empowerment profile, the academic women empowerment profile. That's it.
Thank you, Luis. I think that was useful. We're gonna need it later on. So I think we are done with the introduction to this pre-election discussion session. We've had the feedback from board members. I think Alfie's gonna talk to us very quickly about the election process, and then we're gonna review applications. And then potentially have a discussion on the applications and how do they relate to the board structure. One thing is that it's the closing time of this session right now. What do you propose to do? Should we give it another half an hour, maybe to at least go through the topics?
I think we can give it another half an hour if everyone's happy with that. I don't think we will take that much time. I know certainly my session won't. I speak quickly.
Okay. Is everybody happy with this? Cool. I cannot see hands or stuff, but I guess everybody's happy with this. In addition, one thing that maybe we haven't added to this session is working group coordinators. Usually, along with the board elections, we kind of elected or said who wants to be the next working group coordinator for a specific working group. I'm not sure if this is something we should discuss. I guess we should, because I see a lot of people here that might be interested in being the next working group leader for education, technology, maintenance, so on and so forth. So let's just keep that in mind. But there are also these, is it six positions that could be renewed. Some people might stay on their position, or it could change. So Alfie, the floor is yours. You're going to share your screen, or should I?
No, I can share my screen if somebody can make me co-host.
Cool. I think.
Okay,
I have the power now. There we go. Oh no, 1 second. There we go. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yes, perfect. Okay. So this is just a quick introduction to how the election process has run and will run this year. So for the executive board, which we've just been discussing, every role must be voted on. It's not possible for somebody just to say, oh, I'm staying in the role. They must step down and then be re-elected if they wish to be re-elected. But all previous holders of the positions are able to apply for re-election if that's what they want to do. All applicants are invited to apply for roles. This has already been happening. We've already had a few applicants. I think the deadline for any applications is actually towards the end of this session. I'm not sure whether we should discuss about potentially extending that to the end of the day or 1 or 2 days time, but we can discuss that after I'm done. Votes are by consensus in the first instance. So what that means is, given the nature of wind empowerment and how we try to be open with all members and everybody who wishes to engage with us, if an applicant is not contentious, if nobody disagrees with the election of a particular individual to a particular role, then that is considered as a vote. If it is contentious, then what happens is, I will change the screen. If the vote is not unanimous, then it goes to a more formal voting process, whereby only voting members are able to vote. The definition of a voting member is a member organization rather than an individual, who is a non-profit organization that has already applied and been accepted as a formal member to Wind Empowerment. Votes can be made in person on the day of the conference, or they can be made in advance by email to windempowerment.group@gmail.com. The list of the applicants who have applied for each role will be shared with all members after the session today. The date of the election will be confirmed shortly. Something that we haven't mentioned yet is the fact that an annual general meeting will also take place just before the election. The AGM is there to allow for more of this kind of debate, but also will involve myself presenting Wind Empowerment's accounts. So this is a formal requirement based on the type of organization that we are. So in that, I will describe how our accounts look at the moment, what we've been spending money on for the last 2 years, and explain any significant issues. I can give you a brief introduction to that now. The accounts look reasonably good. There have been no significant issues, but we can repeat that formally during the AGM. And that's about it for the election process. I realized that I went through that very quickly, and it is a very important thing for everybody to know. So I will take some questions now if there are any. I can't see the chat bar, by the way, so if there are any questions, please shout. I think the biggest thing to bear in mind is that, as I said, we try and run things by consensus. We try and make sure that we can reach compromises wherever possible. And this isn't just for the election, of course. This is throughout Wind Empowerment's decision-making processes. It's only if something is contentious and not unanimous that we draw in the formal voting rules. The reason we don't do this from the first instance is because to do that, we would restrict quite a large amount of our membership from being able to vote, given that not everybody is part of an organization and not everybody has a formal registration of their own organization. So that's the reason for why we try and operate in a consensus-based manner.
Thank you, Alfie. Just to add on the consensus voting, which is a bit of only Wind Empowerment does that. Actually, there have never been really 2 people for one position, or there's been, because this has been usually happening during the conference. So if there's two people going for the same position, then they either share it, which is something that we've done in the past. Okay, between 3 people we haven't done for one role. Maybe that's too much. But also, you know, there's discussion going on, and maybe 2 people are going for the same role, then maybe one person decides to go for another one that's still vacant. So at the end of the day, we kind of have all the positions filled with applicants, and we kind of, you know, ratify this at the physical meeting during the conference, which is usually the AGM as well, and then send out the results to the membership, and you know, asking if there is any objection.
Sure.
So
something that I have forgotten to mention so far is that, of course, it's not just the executive board that is elected. We also do have a trustee board, which is a smaller board of trustees who are responsible for oversight over the executive board. So the role of the trustees essentially is to make sure that the executive board is at all times working in the best interests of the membership. And often, for example, if there are significant or formal changes to the organization, we will have to consult the trustees to make sure that they understand what is going on and that they have no objection to what is going on. There's never been a case where the trustees have objected to anything that we're doing, but they do act as that extra bit of oversight to make sure that we are behaving properly, essentially. So the trustee positions are slightly different. It's less hands-on. They are less involved in the day-to-day operation of wind empowerment because they need that level of separation to guarantee oversight. We have currently, I think, 5 trustees. I may be wrong. We have 5 or 6 trustees at the moment, and they will hopefully be involved in the AGM and the election soon. They are not obliged to stand down every year. They may seek not to stand down and continue as a trustee as they had before. But every year, at least 1/3 of the trustee board, every election, 1/3 of the trustee board must step down, and then they have the option to be re-elected as they see fit. So the trustee board is also an important, they fulfill an important role. But as I say, are less involved in the day-to-day operation of wind empowerment.
And I suppose we will be making a call for trustee positions.
Of course, yeah.
Soon.
Although I think, sure, there is no limit to the number of trustees who can be on the board. It's only a practical limit. Like I say, there are 5 now, then there is a minimum of 3 trustees.
Okay. Thank you,
Okay.
Alfie. Any questions? This is it is the right time to ask. If you have any question.
Yes, I am unmuted. That's good. Sorry, 2 other things I've forgotten to mention about the kind of the legal formal structure of wind empowerment. Is that we are governed by 2 separate documents. We are governed by the Charter and we are governed by the Constitution. The Constitution is a legal document that defines what we can do and how. We don't change the Constitution. The Constitution is, as I say, a legal document. Then the Charter is a formal document, but something that is somewhat less formal than the Constitution. The Charter describes how we operate in the day-to-day operation of wind empowerment, and is a little bit closer to reality than the Constitution, which is, again, as I say, this kind of high-level legal document. So the Charter has been changed a couple of times. It's pending amendments at the moment, and it is a document that sets out our decision-making process. As I say, the consensus-based approach that we take, it details this in a little bit of detail. All of these can be found on our website if there's anybody who has a burning need to read them. They're quite long documents, but feel free to read them if you want to. We're all about transparency.
I want to ask something to clarify it, whether any of the roles are obligatory to have, or it is up to us to specify which roles we have.
So according to the Constitution, I think either the Constitution or Charter states that the Executive Board is a minimum of 2 people. Those 2 people can be any mixture of the roles that have been formally set out. But for obvious reasons, it wouldn't be great if we only had, for example, there are certain key roles that should be filled, is what I'm trying to say. It would be a difficult situation if we only have 2 communications people on the board. Not that communications people aren't important, because they're very important.
I think it might be three positions, but anyway, it's a detail.
Sure.
But yeah, we can definitely shuffle roles around, but there is anyway, there is things to be said about which ones are kind of more necessary than others. Although the actual board roles have been created because of a reason. Like throughout all the boards, we've seen that these are the necessary functions for the organization. But yeah, okay. So we could look through the current applications. We could ask people that are with us now and have not applied if they are interested in applying either for the board or for a specific board role, or for being the coordinator of a specific working group out of the 6 that you've seen during the conference. So go ahead with this, and then yeah, see how much time is left and what we can do. Yeah. Okay, Kimon, would you like to do the spreadsheet of show us who has applied for what?
Mm-hmm.
Or thank you.
Just a second. Should I read through individual applications, Kostas?
I think due to the lack of time, I think we can maybe, I don't know, say the position and the person that's applying. Some people have written things along with their application, but I think, do we have enough time to do this now? Probably not.
Maybe not.
How about sharing the screen so that people can read if they want?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you could share the spreadsheet. Are you still? Can you still share your screen, Kimon?
I think so.
Yeah, nice.
So you can see this spreadsheet over here. I've not copied all the description of all the applicants. Well, some had written some details, but some hadn't. But you can see that you can see the name in the second column, the name of the applicant. In the 4D column, you can see the qualification, which some had mentioned in the email. On the E column, you can see the position that they've applied for. We've got 10 applications total, including some that we received today. So for scientific advisor position, we've got 2 applications, one from Mr. Louis Quivel and one from Louise. We've got one application from Karana Oliver for Education Working Group Coordinator. We've got one application for both fundraising and communication from Guillermo. We've got one application from Guillermo Catugno, but he's not mentioned any specific working group coordinator. He just mentioned that he could contribute to any working group leaders. And then we've got one application for working group coordinator from Adrian. And finally, one application is for Women Empowerment Coordinator, which is from Kostas. Also, there's another application which is from Daniel Connell, which does not mention any specific position, but I think he says in his email that if the organization wants to use him for any specific task, is willing to volunteer.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, just very quickly on Daniel's application. I would suggest getting in touch with him and then seeing what particular roles he might be interested in. I had a chat with him previously, and he's an interesting guy that I definitely think could contribute. So it would be nice to have a little bit more definition on what he thinks he can bring.
Yep. I can maybe send an email later.
Okay, and what about the first row? Habel?
Oh, Habel. Oh, I'm so sorry, I missed that one.
Right.
So, working group coordinator. So he's applied for working group coordinator, which means that we've got two applications for working group coordinator. One from Habel and one from Adrian.
I think Damian has applied for something, but apparently he's not referenced in the spreadsheet according to a message in the chat.
I think he said for the same. I think he said for the same position he had. So is that the maintenance working group?
Yeah, exactly. Yes. I'm sorry, I missed that part. But yes, I would like to finish what I started in these times.
Nice one, man.
Yeah.
Should we also go through the working groups now that we are here? Maybe ask if... Sorry?
I was saying, I think that's a great idea. So do you want to start with like the education group and work your way down?
Yeah, we can probably fill in the spreadsheet with what comes out. So education working group, Adrienne, you used to be the coordinator, yeah?
I am for maintenance.
Okay, so let's start with maintenance then. So Damien wants to continue and finish the work that he started. That's great.
I think I work with education also, but I think I've started with this and want to finish it maybe in the future.
Thank you, Damien.
No.
Education working group, yeah. Adrienne.
So I also like to finish what I have started, but I think I have a nice feeling that Karana would be a good partner to do it. And if I position me as a working group coordinator, I could help following, like making the link between the women empowerment strategy and what happens in the working groups. And continue the work that has been done in the education working group together with a new applicant.
That sounds great, Adrian.
I have a question. Are we going to talk about the structure? Because, for example, I'm applied for 2 roles because I think that there are some there are some roles that you can join it, and we can have a smaller board, but a board in a really executive board, like can have hours to work in a specific task. and well, if we can, if we would like, we can have other board, you know, for more strategical things, but that's like a discussion board. But why I say this, because for example, for me, Adrian, he can be the coordinator for the working groups, and he can be the education working groups in the same way. For example, I think so. No, I'm thinking in specific skills that you need to do the role, and I think that could be useful to think a more dynamic executive board, I think.
Thank you, Guille. It's just that it would be nice to go through this quickly, just to get some names down, and since we're all here now, and let's give this another 5 minutes or 10, and then we can ask again, you know, everybody whether we have more time to go into this very obviously important discussion. I don't know if everybody agrees.
I may want to dedicate myself a bit more in empowerment as well. Maybe more in a strategical and communication related position, maybe sharing the seat with Guillermo, and yeah, I think we had a good connection during the organization of the conference, and I would like to continue that inside of the board position to help with the digitalization of the organization, and maybe having stronger tools to enhance the wind empowerment experience between the members, and especially enhance the way we work remotely and we collaborate remotely.
Thank you, Jan. So that would be putting you down for communications, yeah?
Yes, I think
as a board role, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's the same.
It's communication and fundraising.
No, they're not. There are two roles, but Guillermo has applied for both.
Mm.
What about the other working groups, or anybody else who wants to speak?
So myself and Kimon at the moment are joint market assessment working group coordinators. I don't think I will be finishing the job that I've started. Unfortunately, I can't speak for Kimon, but unfortunately I don't have the time to coordinate the working group anymore. I'm still more than happy to be involved, but the coordination I will relinquish.
Mine is the same position, just to let everybody know. Yeah, I don't think I'd be quite able to justify the role of coordination, mostly because of my time constraint, but yeah, it's going to be a bit difficult.
So I'm conscious that we don't want to leave a working group without a coordinator. I will be in touch with a few people and see whether there is any interest to take on the role.
That's good,
Thank
Alfie.
you, guys. That sounds great.
About the delivery models, so I haven't really done much things as a coordinator the last 2 years besides the organization of the session for this conference. And the truth is that I think also Alfie and me, we were taking these positions temporarily. But yes, we couldn't find somebody to take the place in the process. I think I'm not the best person to be coordinator for this working group, because I think it needs somebody that has a good knowledge of the realities of projects, and I don't have this. So I really believe there are people who could do this better. I don't want to leave the group as an orphan, so I could also ask the people who joined the session yesterday, perhaps, and maybe also Guillermo Catuoño would like to take on this group since he is interested in any of the groups. Or maybe even Guillermo, I mean, Pleitavino. I don't know if you would consider taking on this role again.
You were doing joint coordination with Guillermo, right, Katerina?
I was asking Guillermo if he would like to be the coordinator for the next 2 years for the group.
Okay.
Sorry, I could not listen the last part, Katerina.
I was saying, Guillermo, that I'm not planning to continue in coordinating the delivery models working group. So I was suggesting that maybe you or Guillermo Catuoño or somebody from yesterday's session could take on this role.
Okay. Okay. Yes, of course. I think that the new phase that we include in the delivery models working group, Wanda and Larissa, maybe we can consider there also. But yes, I don't have problem, but yes, it's okay. But are you sure that you don't want to be, Katerina? Are you sure?
Okay, let's not give it more time now because it is late. But yes, this is the plan.
Sure. And there's a wider conversation that does need to be had that Guillaume was talking about, and I think that, like I say, it needs to be had, and it will be had, but perhaps not tonight, perhaps during the AGM and the election event, which we will schedule shortly. I'd like to make, sorry, Kostas, go ahead.
Quickly just finish the working groups?
Yeah.
Unless
no, please.
To leave before we do. Okay. So what about the technology working group? Was that Jean who was coordinating it?
Yes, I was coordinating it for the last 2 years. I can contact the working group members to see if there are other applicants. If not, well, I will propose myself as the next coordinator as well. But yeah, I will ask around if someone else from the working group would like to coordinate it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's always a good idea to get more people on board, and a working group coordinator for a specific working group is it's a smooth way.
But on my view, well, it will. I believe as well we'll have to keep this discussion for another time. But I think it's important that we think of possibly merging a bit of the position of the working group coordinators with the board. I strongly believe that this will facilitate the exchange of information between members and the board. So, in my point.
Yeah, I mean, since before this conversation, it was not advised for board members to also be working group coordinators, but it's happened in the past because there was nobody else to take the place, and it has benefits and restrictions. But yeah, I think it's something to note down to discuss in the overall discussion concerning the structure of the board and so on and so forth. Next working group, it's maybe measurement.
Yeah, hello everybody, how are you? Could you listen me okay? Hi Alfie. Okay, I was in charge of that position for the last 2 years, and well, I am not very happy with the things done, but I think I can continue with the job start, because I guess maybe I get in contact with all the person involved, so I can continue coordinating it and trying to search more networking work.
Also, we now have exciting project in the pipelines. So
yeah. So to be brief, I think I can continue with the same position and maybe take the next 2 years to make more contact between the person involved and try to find some new objectives.
Okay, great. That's nice to hear. I think we've gone through the working groups. Yeah, is there a working group left? I don't think so. Yeah. Okay, so now what do we do? What follows is a discussion on the board structure,
Sorry,
the connection between...
Kostas, can I just come in? We've
Yeah,
not
please.
discussed the secretary or treasurer roles, which are the most exciting and most important roles in the entirety of the organization.
Yeah, we have presented them, but we have no applications for them. So what
No,
do you
exactly.
suggest?
Exactly. And I want to highlight that. They are very, very important positions. As I said in my presentation, perhaps not the most exciting of positions, not the most technical, but in terms of making sure that wind empowerment continues and is sustainable, they are two of the most important positions.
I think this is Alfie's way of trying to recruit within this group.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, I have a question, Alfie.
Yeah, go ahead.
What are the specific skills that you need to do the treasurer role? Because maybe, I don't know, Kostas, if you agree, but maybe the coordinator could do, you know, the treasurer and maybe the secretary role also. So, like, well, that is in the way that I mentioned, like a small board, but I don't know the specific skills. Is somebody that have to be in the United Kingdom or where that specific background? I don't know.
So I can talk a little bit about the skills needed. The attention to detail is required for keeping and regularly updating a spreadsheet of the accounts. And attention to detail when making transfers, making sure that you don't have an account number wrong by 1 digit, for example. That would be a disaster. All these kinds of things, making sure that things are done in a precise way, basically. Those are the skills that are needed, and making sure that things are performed on time, because if payments are delayed, then obviously activities are delayed, and the activities are what really matter. So that's what's important. I've seen your email about the structure, and I partly agree, I partly disagree, but again, this is something that needs a broader discussion. Is it something that could be done by the coordinator? Yes, but only if the coordinator had a lot of time. You know, I see the treasurer and the secretary roles as extension of the coordinator. They're delegated activities. The secretary handles the internal communication and discussions with members. The treasurer handles all the financial and bookkeeping activities, so that the coordinator has sight of them but doesn't necessarily have to do them all of the time. If the coordinator had more time, perhaps these roles wouldn't be so necessary. But that's for the board to decide. I do think that some of these activities, even if they're not, the roles in particular aren't filled, it can't just be left to the coordinator. Adrian says that it's a lot of responsibilities on one person. I agree. It can't all be on the coordinator, especially if the coordinator doesn't have the time to commit. So that's my little speech.
But Alfie, one question, quick one.
Yeah?
Between the two, like the treasurer, how much time it will take, let's say a month, and how much is the secretary? Because I have the feeling in my head that the secretary is really time consuming and the treasurer maybe is less. So can you give us a little indication?
Yeah, I agree. The treasurer, so I keep track of my emails. I make sure that if someone is requesting payment, I try and get that paid within 3 days. But it's not intense. You know, I just keep track of my emails and make a note to address this within 3 days, and then I address it. Making payments can take 5-10 minutes at most. You know, you have to check them and then you make them. It's quite simple. The secretary's responsibilities, and Kimon can talk about this, I have a feeling are more time consuming and I would argue more important. Obviously treasurer is important, but we could survive as an organization without money. We couldn't survive as an organization without members. That's the way I think of it.
Giving a particular number in terms of hours is quite difficult for the secretary job. From my own experience, some months you've got, well, actually one thing that's for sure which is fixed is that you've got to record or dictate the minutes during the monthly board meeting, which is quite fixed and is for 2 hours every month. So I think that's one fixed job. But I think if that could be chosen not to be in that way if it's not needed, probably. It depends how crucial it is to record everything during the board meeting, and maybe just to record the action items and just the decision being made, which could reduce the amount of work over there. But in terms of other things, I think when carrying out the surveys, I found which was a bit time consuming. It doesn't have to be like that, but yeah, personally for me, it took some time and effort to manage, handle, analyze all these stuff and record, put together. Well, particularly with the last year, since May, there's not been any new membership applications. So in terms of recording the new membership applications and stuff like that, it's not been too stressful. But I wouldn't definitely put secretary's job to a coordinator position. I think that needs to be quite handled carefully, I think.
I agree. Although I'm just realizing, Kimon, perhaps we're not selling the positions so well.
I think so. I've got a similar feeling, Alfie.
Yeah,
I should have started by saying it's the most wonderful job in the world.
It is. It's fantastic. I can say that the treasurer is the joint most wonderful job in the world.
I also want to say that it is not necessary to be very close and very familiar with how the organization works to take on a position in wind empowerment. I think most of us are learning in the beginning, and when I took on the secretary position in 2016, I was a complete newbie to the organization, and I didn't go that bad in the end. So don't be afraid of being very new.
I have to say, Katrina, that whatever kind of skill I had in the beginning, nothing has changed. My dictating, minuting skill was quite minimum, and now it's the same.
So guys, I think summarizing this, I think most of the people are not, maybe most of the people are a bit afraid about the time that needs to be spent on this. from what I understand, the treasurer, it's obviously it's essential, but maybe we can simplify a bit, maybe put in like straight deadlines on when people need to submit. Sure. And when payments are done, so you don't have to check your email every day, but you do it once a month when you know the deadlines are, like kind of things like that. Secretary, it takes a lot of more time, and in any kind of organization, the value of the secretary is that he loses a lot of time to weed out the information and put the key ones out, such that everyone else doesn't lose the same time. So, and that's, I think, is essential. So, yeah, I think I get your point. The coordinator can do the treasurer together, but the secretary should be a separate one. And I agree.
I agree.
Just to add a little bit on the, especially the secretary position, for anybody who does not have a very in-depth view of what wind empowerment is, it's a great way in. So just what Katerina mentioned, yeah. So yeah.
So
maybe. Yeah,
sorry, Kostas.
No, maybe the treasurer is a little bit more technical, or maybe UK based. We've discussed this in the past. But anyway, I'd just like to add that the board positions are the ones that they are because of past experience. They were not always these boards, these positions. But anyway, it's we are maybe going a little bit into this discussion. Maybe it's a good time to decide whether we're going to have it now, or maybe see how we're going to have it.
I think we need to have it in the AGM. Personally, I think it needs more time than we are able to give it tonight. I know it's getting late for some people, and I wouldn't want to impose, but it does. I think it needs at least an hour and a half to discuss these things properly. There's no point doing it in a rush, in my view. Other people might think differently.
I agree with Alfie. The only thing I would say is that I think the current board needs to come with a proposal, because otherwise it's going to be an hour and a half of just talking. I think the board needs to, current board needs to have an hour together, think about the structure based on their experience, and propose it that, such that the GM we can start from there at least.
Yeah, that's a proposal. Then Marco then just to propose another, essentially, I guess, a board meeting. So then we can come together, have those thoughts, and then have the AGM. I think what we really wanted to define today would be like when this AGM will be happening. Correct me if I'm wrong, Alfie, but that way we kind of have a set date that we are striving to have these things completed by.
So may I just ask a question here? If I understand it right, that we have the AGM at a different date and it's not today, so the vote for the positions is not going to happen today, or is that correct?
That's correct.
Correct.
Okay, so because I just wanted to say I would probably put myself forward for the technology working group coordination position, and just if nobody else is willing to do it, and I would probably like doing it because I think I could add some value. I haven't written up any proper proposal and a small CV or stuff like that on the spreadsheet that people wrote about themselves, but it was just born right now, this idea. And yeah, you can write my name in there and see how that works.
That's great,
I would like to add just one thing to the discussion, is that, okay, I understand that if we have a proper discussion, it's going to take time. But today we have 20 participants and these people are listening. Are we going to have these many participants if we set up a meeting in some days' time? I'm not so sure. I mean, we're all here together right now. To which extent is this the best moment to have a more, whatever discussion that we need to have and elect the board? And to which extent we're just gonna shoot ourselves in the foot by telling everybody goodbye, and then when we reconvene in a few days' time, it's going to be just the current board and 2 more people. You know.
Luis, we need to have the election and AGM at some point anyway, and that can't be now because these positions need to be circulated. amongst the membership. So I think it makes more of a natural sense to combine this discussion with that than rush it now. I see what you're saying. We do have a good group of people here at the moment, and it would be nice to be sure that everyone here can join that meeting and can be part of that discussion. Yeah, and Jean says there, the AGM can be done in an attractive way as well. I agree. I can make the reporting of the accounts incredibly interesting so that everyone here will want to attend that for sure.
I'd like to say also that this is kind of like what we had put into place. We knew that coming into the WEOnline conference, we wouldn't have the AGM, that we would have it at a later date. So I think that, I mean, I know that there's a great group of people here. I'm not discarding that. But most of the people are people from the board and working groups as well. So I think if anything, by making this more attractive at a later date, we could probably recruit even more people. We have seen great numbers, like we've had even up to 87 people participate in some of our working groups. So I think that by only doing this would probably increase the momentum. So I reiterate again, it's like, when do we want to have this so we don't lose the momentum?
Sure. And just because I want to make the point, even though it's not related to the discussion that's happening right now, so this is a bit of an interruption. If nobody applies to be the treasurer, I'm not going to stay on the executive board because I do not, unfortunately, have the time. I will be applying to be elected as a trustee. Whether people elect me is a different matter. But I will be willing to serve as the acting treasurer and, you know, fulfill some of the most important immediate tasks in support of the board for the short term. I don't want that to be a permanent thing, but if that's required, I'll be happy to help.
And I think that that's something, I guess, if we didn't mention that before, is that whatever position you're thinking about applying or have applied for, you will have that provided. So the current position holder, so let's say I'm the coordinator, I am willing to help the next coordinator, so facilitate and be the advisor, do a proper handover, but then also do more than just the handover for a month and help out in that transition. So I'm sure that every board position has that in place, and I'm sure that Alfie would be more than willing to kind of help that new treasurer out in whatever shape or form that is needed. And I believe Alfie will be elected to be a trustee, so he'll definitely be around to help with that as well.
I don't know, you've not seen what I've written on my application yet.
I can only imagine.
Well, hopefully all this discussion has been very interesting, and a lot of people that are here and haven't spoken have been inspired by all these amazing roles, especially the secretary position, which hasn't been applied for.
The treasurer position hasn't. The treasurer position hasn't been applied for either. Just to make that clear.
I'm sorry, Alfie. I'm sorry. Yes. Anyway, no. This is. I'm just saying that you know, all of the new people, basically, or people who haven't spoken. If you're interested in participating in any of these roles, as you've seen, they can be shared, and you know, there's we're always open to that. You know, either think about it or send an email, I guess, in the next few days, or if you want to comment on something right now, you can also do that. But yeah, so how do we move forward then?
So I would propose that we set a deadline at some point this week. Wednesday, perhaps. People could say Thursday or Tuesday or whatever. But we need to discuss a few of these roles. For example, Daniel Connell has suggested he would like to apply for something. It would be good to know what his ideas are in a little bit more detail. And perhaps another email around the membership, making them aware that these roles are up for grabs. I would suggest a deadline for Wednesday, and then following that deadline, we can circulate these applications to the membership so everyone is aware. And also on Wednesday, we should set a date for the AGM and for the election and for this prolonged discussion to take place. That would be my idea. We might want a different timeline, but I think those are the next steps that are needed.
I would argue that we should set now, maybe for next Saturday, like in a week's time, a little bit more, less than a week's time, to have the AGM, so that everybody who leaves this discussion actually knows when to come back as well. I think it's important to keep in momentum, you know, to say, look, in a week time we have this discussion.
Sorry, Louise, just to come in on that, I don't think we will be able to have it in a week's time, on the basis that the membership needs to have these applications and needs to have time to consider them. I think that's something that's in the charter. There is a time requirement on how long in advance of the election that we need to send the applications out, especially when the votes will be mostly by email.
Considering the discussion on the structure of the board, is that something that should happen prior to sending out the applications to the members for voting? Because we're implying a structure of the board by sending out these applications.
So there are certain restrictions that are in the Constitution that will, you know, have to be fulfilled regardless of what the structure is. Sorry, that's kind of a moot point. I wasn't making much sense then. Apologies, Kostas.
You can start again if you want.
No, I don't need to start again. I didn't have. I'm just really. I started a point and then realized I didn't have one. It's getting late.
Should we?
It is getting late for sure. Yes, Katerina.
Should we also give a few more days to people to think and apply for any other positions? Did we say this? If we will extend a bit the deadline, maybe until Wednesday, that we said we will contact the people.
Yeah, I think Alfie mentioned the Wednesday as a potential deadline for applications. So
that was a suggestion to make sure that there's some time, but not a waste of time. You know.
Okay, it can also be Thursday, but it doesn't make much of a difference. Yeah, we can do Thursday if that's better. But
guys, so just one thing. So we're saying to people that we're leaving a deadline to Thursday so they can apply for positions in a board that are not yet open, because we have not yet discussed what the structure of the board is going to be. And then what? I think there is you know, it's late, we're tired, and we're kind of bogging down the discussion on some practicalities or details that kind of getting lost, I think. I propose that we should at least try to set the date for the AGM in 2 weeks time, if that should be it. I don't know, but at least that have it leave this session with that in mind, so that we don't have to set up a meeting to set up the next meeting and avoid that kind of you know, troublesome time consumption. And we should, you know, if there is going to be a discussion about board efficiency on the next AGM, which may potentially lead to a change in the board, but the people who are going to be there, they're going to be discussing this. And I would suggest that for the sake of us also a little bit of efficiency, that we let people apply for the positions that exist. When we discussed on the next board, on the AGM, we can maybe review some of these positions, see if they need to be merged or not, and we can review the applications on the light of any of these mergers. And then we can have, you know, all this discussion at a single go 2 weeks time.
I think the discussion on restructuring the board started because there were not so many applications. I think right now there's quite a few. So I would generally agree with Luis that we have a structure, we have a call for positions, we go with that all the way until the deadline, and then set the AGM.
So
and see which the applications are, and if necessary changes are needed, we do it along with the trustees and everybody.
Sure. I would also say that, you know, we've put out this call for roles and positions, and people have applied for specific roles or positions. I don't think it makes sense for the outgoing board to then change what these positions are or what these positions look like. I think that's the prerogative of the new board. If that's to happen. And I think the discussion that happens alongside the AGM will be useful for informing the new board of what issues and challenges there are and what solutions there might be, but it doesn't obligate them to follow up on that. It allows them to make those decisions.
And so should we set the date for the AGM now? So then at least the people who are here, who are probably important, if they're still here, is because they're interested in the board. Those who we already lost 4 people in the process of this discussion. I would suggest that we set the date so we can adjourn the current discussion and avoid, you know, spending another half an hour discussing about a reconstruction of the board that will not take place, and avoid setting up a date Wednesday, which will be probably the date we're going to set up today anyways.
Just to say, I will not be available for the next 2 weekends. So the earliest I will actually be available for the AGM is the 20th of December. And Adrian is there. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, just to mention that the trustees need to be present at the AGM, or at least the majority of them. So there are some people that really need to be there, and we need to have a date that they can make. I think if people on this meeting, they are interested in this process and they would like to be part of the board, or at least follow what's going on, you know, we can email people with a doodle and see what is the best date for everybody. I don't think we can set a date right now. I mean, if we can, that's good, but we would have to communicate with the trustees and see if they can make it. So
absolutely, yeah.
Oh, but at least just in the last few seconds, we realized that it will have to be around Christmas. Okay, it will be after the 20th, because that's when Alfie is available, and we need the treasurer to do the accounting. So, you know, at least we know it's going to be on the ballpark of in about a month's time. So either end of December or January.
Is that after you'll be back after, you'll be available after the 14th of December? Yeah, that's 2 weeks.
No, the next two weekends. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
I won't be available during the week.
Okay, so roughly after the 14th of December, we will have the AGM, either during that week or just before Christmas. Does that make sense?
Alfie said he will not be available during the week either, I think. So the 20th would be the earliest.
Sure, it will be, I think the 20th is the earliest that I would be available. I will be taking some time off work around then, so I could be potentially more flexible and have it during the week in the Christmas sort of time. But I'm aware that people, you know, I think a poll is a good idea, certainly.
Yeah, I think a poll would be a great idea, but it sounds like that weekend of the 20th might be a good idea as well, just before everybody goes on holiday, I think. So it could be something that we can start doing now. Who could be in charge of the poll?
Okay, I think we can figure this out within the board through emails. Okay, so we know when the AGM is happening, we know what needs to be done before the AGM. We also just need the deadline for applications.
Yeah.
Because yeah, that and there's like talking to Daniel and some other people to see what actually they have in mind.
So I think by the end of this week would be fine. I mean, if we said Wednesday, we said Thursday. I mean, any day this week, I think, because the momentum is still there and it's still fresh. So I don't think we need to give people so much time. I think that if somebody is really thinking about it and maybe just wants to ask a question or two, they can approach somebody within the next few days, so they can make that decision. What do you guys think?
How about Friday the 4th then?
Sounds good to me. Bye, Alfie. I think we're starting to lose people, Kostas.
No, I'm not leaving just yet. I was saying goodbye to everyone who is. You've got to be
okay, yeah. Bye, everyone. Nobody's leaving. So great, you've lasted this long.
Okay, so deadline for the 4th, and if anybody has any questions who's on the call, drop us an email and we can reply.
I think the only other thing was that we were thinking about having, was it a meeting with the board, existing board? Do we still have to do that, or do you think it'll be okay to just, what are the thoughts on that?
Do you mean after the election between the new and old board?
No. This was beforehand. We were talking about having just so we can set up the structure or something, but we decided that that's not something that we need to have, correct?
I don't think so. I think in advance of the discussion on the structure, if everybody comes along to that conversation having some ideas in mind, Guy has already shared some of his ideas, so something like that I think would be a good foundation for that discussion. Okay,
great. Sounds good then. So then we're aiming by the end of this week, we'll have the applicants, and then we're hoping to have the AGM the week of the 20th, if not whatever the poll says, and we'll figure out when the poll is going to be sent out, hopefully sometime this week as well.
Yeah.
Sweet.
And I will make sure that we send out the information about the deadline extension.
Perfect. Thank you, Katerina.
Okay. Who gets the
as far
honor?
as I'm concerned, session is over. Floor is open.
No, I was going to say who gets the honor of closing the conference. You can't just say the session is over, Kostas.
Right?
Yeah, this session is over now. It's the closing ceremony. It's a surprise closing ceremony.
Oh yeah! Cheers, everyone. Great job.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for
everyone. Guys.
Yeah, thank you guys for putting this on. It has been great.
Goodbye. Goodbye,
Thank
everyone.
you so much.
Cheers.
Bye.
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 Bye, guys. See you
Bye,
soon.
Damian.
See you soon.
Nice one, guys. Kimon, can you stop sharing your screen so that we can see faces?
You should have reminded me about that earlier.
No, it was relevant until a few seconds ago.
Physica.
What's up?
Right. Okay.
Cheers, guys. Well done, huh? It was a great conference, huh? Amazing.
It was great. It was really, really good. Well done, Adrian. Well done, everyone. Yeah.
If nobody closes the conference, I'm gonna do it.
Yes, Luis, that was the surprise ceremony.
He's back.
All right. Okay, well, I'm leaving anyway.
We want to see you though.
Yeah.
Cheers, guys. Goodbye. Good to see you.
Bye.
Bye.